Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Welcome to my video on APA style, grammar and usage. I'll be reviewing grammar and usage as it is presented in the publication manual of the American Psychological Association. So let's take a look at this manuscript, and we'll start with this section, statement of the problem. And I have key points highlighted that I want to talk about that are germane to grammar and usage. So we see here we have the word that. The word that should be used with restrictive clauses. And what that means is a clause is essential to the meaning of the sentence. And you can see in this example a variety of studies have demonstrated that the factor structure of the SCL90R, this would be tough. This would be a tough sentence to understand if it ended there. A variety of studies have demonstrated. So if you look at it that way, and then you look at your choice of words here, you can see pretty clearly that this is a restrictive clause and is essential to the meaning of the sentence. So moving down to the next sentence, we have the word although. This is a word that is often misused. Well, I should say the word while is often misused when the intended word is although. So you see here that says, although a number of these studies have suggested areas. Now initially this had the word while a number of these studies have suggested areas. And in the vernacular, this is very common. The word while is used even though it refers to time. But in APA style, we have to distinguish between the two. So looking at this sentence as if it had the word while in it, clearly it's not referring to time. So an example of how the word while would work if the sentence had a different meaning. For example, if it was while a number of these studies were ongoing, researchers continued to look for ways this instrument could be successfully deployed. Well, that makes sense because there, in that example, while refers to time. But in this setting, the clear choice is although. So moving down a bit, we're taking a look at the word both with and. So we have calls for further research and other studies, both broadly and in many specific facets. Do not use both with as well as, because that is redundant. So moving down here, and we're looking at the word which. Now oftentimes individuals writing APA style struggle between the word that and the word which. And I mentioned up here that you use that with restrictive clauses. Well, the word which is used with non-restrictive. These are clauses that simply add more information, but it's not essential. So you can see from this sentence, the importance of identifying new subscales in the SCL90R is a key component of this study, which addresses the call for further research issued by, and then you have the author. So without this clause, the sentence would still make sense. This clause simply adds information. A good habit to get into, and this is actually recommended in the publication manual, is to always use that with restrictive clauses and always use which with non-restrictive clauses. Which is preceded by a comma. Now, again, in regular grammar, it doesn't have to be, but in APA style it's recommended that it is. So a non-restrictive clause would be set off, a non-restrictive clause that uses the word which would be set off by a comma, and of course the word that is never set off by a comma. So if you divide up your thinking along those lines in terms of restrictive clauses with the word that, and non-restrictive with the word which, and with a comma before it, it'll make the decision a little more clear as you look at each sentence and you build each sentence and decide what word you should be using. So in APA style, we always use active voice. In this sentence, as well as I imagine all the sentences in the manuscript, use active voice as opposed to passive voice. So you can see the active voice in this sentence. You have the author know the importance that future research use participants who suffer from severe mental health conditions, while another author cautioned that the SCL carries the risk of underestimating the prevalence of severe psychopathology. That's an active voice. An example of passive voice would be if the sentence read, the importance that future research use participants who suffer from severe mental health conditions was noted by, and then the author. So the word by is really the key word to look for when trying to root out any passive voice that may have made its way into your paper. So moving down here to page 6, we'll take a look at some other words that are commonly misused. So you can see in this sentence, this is the correct use of the word interesting. An interesting finding was this utility of the selective use of the subscales was often supported by the results. And then parenthetically, you have citations there. The word we're trying to avoid using here is interestingly. We also don't want to use importantly, and never use firstly, secondly, and so on. It's just first, and then your point, second, and then your point, and so on. Also, words such as hopefully and thankfully are often misused. Now these are words, these are adverbs that can be used properly, but there's not much occasion to use them properly in scientific writing. Usually what a writer intends when they use the word hopefully is I hope, and when they use the word thankful, I am thankful. In general, use adverbs with caution. For example, certainly, fortunately, regrettably, and similarly. Whenever you see these words have made it into your manuscript, you can probably find a way to remove them and still have your sentence have the point and the purpose that you originally wanted. Here are a few other words that are often misused. Neither and nor and either and or. So neither and nor are always used together. For example, in this sentence, neither the utility for the assessment of substance use nor the utility for the assessment of schizophrenia are discussed. It's neither nor. It would be incorrect in this example if these words were removed and it just read neither the utility for the assessment of substance use nor of schizophrenia. Now, that's incorrect. It's not consistent with APA style. Even though this seems redundant, because it's also written here, it's actually grammatically correct. So moving down to page 8, let's take a look at the proper use of not only and but also. So this sentence is correct the way it's written. This study addresses not only this pressing need in the mental health counseling community, but also identifies a shorter and more precise variant of this instrument. The mistake that would be commonly made here would be putting the words not only before the verb. in this case, addresses. So if the sentence read, this study not only addresses this pressing need, that would be incorrect. And last, I want to take a look at another common pair of words that are confused. This is very similar to what I covered before, looking at the words although and while. Similarly, the words because and since frequently become confused. So, like in the case of while, in the vernacular, we tend to use the word since when we really mean the word because. So this sentence could read, since only 83 items on the instruments are intended to be part of the scale. But since refers to time, and the word because does not. So the proper usage here is because only 83 items on the instrument are intended to be part of the scale. In this example, a proper use of the word since would be, since the 83 items were initially formed, following studies have mainly focused on these new items. You can see in that example, the word since would refer to time, and here it does not, so we use because. I want to thank you for watching this video. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact me, and I'll be happy to assist you.